Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another World of Warships Wednesday. Today, this is going to be a bit of a longer video, as you can see by the runtime. It's as a result of me bringing you 3 different battles in my U.S.S. Ranger, all with the Strike Air Wing. I did trim out the beginning of the video just back to the part where the first air groups launch, so it saved about a minute total time between the 3 videos, not really that much. So for this first battle, you can see it's a nice domination. I'm able to get my, I had a spawn right near the western side of the map, so I'm able to get my air wing off pretty quickly to the side. And my goal here is to go after the enemy carrier, hunt him down first, and then hopefully take advantage of knocking him out. Now you can see on the map, at first I thought he was going to be Strike Wing as well until that fighter squadron showed up, and then I realized he's an Air Wing Ranger. So he's fairly well equipped to deal with me if I don't get rid of him pretty quickly, so I kind of don't really have a choice. I need to kind of get after him first. So I got all my bombers grouped together so they don't get picked off one by one. I think for sure at this point that he's coming after me, but he's not actually. Unfortunately, my torpedo planes are a bit lagging behind the pack there, but it can't really be helped because I am sure if he doesn't know where I am, his fighters are going to spot me any moment and close in. However, it looks like his fighters are not actually on an intercept heading for my my air wing. Until suddenly they turn north. So now I'm not sure where his planes are, and I sort of made a strategic mistake here by sending my torpedo planes directly in. I was afraid they were going to get intercepted and chewed up. But what I should have done was sent my bombers straight in and then had my torpedo planes continue north, because he probably would have gone after my bombers first. I briefly decided to send my bombers in to attack that battleship right there, trapped by the trapped by that island, but then I realized I would be sending my guys directly at his fighters and they would surely take savage losses. So I didn't do that. Plus, then I spotted his fighters back in the middle, not reacting to where my planes were, so it all ended up being fine anyways. So initial crisis averted. Detection did not happen. You can see his bomb groups are heading south. They are actually coming after me, which you'll see happen off-screen in a few minutes here. I'm detected now. His bombers have spotted me. But I've also spotted his carrier. So I've got all 3 bomber squadrons grouped into a nice little cluster pack here. And I get a pretty decent manual drop on him here. Not as good as it could have been. It was a bit off to the side, and quite a few of them missed alongside of him. But I did get 6 bomb hits and 2 fires. Not too bad. I send my bombers off to the side so they don't fly back through the middle of the entire enemy fleet while I wait for him to use his repair, his damage control party, and then finish him off with my torpedo planes. So his bombers get in and bomb me. I notice that it's both squadrons. Use my damage control party, and I'm safe from any further attack. Get my torpedo planes in, and it doesn't matter at this point whether he had a damage control party active or not, because I'm going to get 4 out of 6 torpedo hits here. It only took 3 to sink him, but the 4th one did still hit, so I did actually register 4 hits. Just the 4th one didn't count because it hit the bow of his ship after his ship was already destroyed. So that's an enemy carrier down. And I'd like to thank the NVIDIA Corporation for changing around GeForce experience so that now when you do a DVR recording and save, it pops that stupid little banner up there in the upper right. Awesome, fellas. Instead of it being part of the UI like it used to be, now it actually comes across on the screen as part of a graphical thing, and it records it itself. And that's just a little bit of all that audio and video hiccuping there, that's from my recording on my desktop. It was stuttering and hiccuping a little bit during this day, I'm not sure why. I believe that's the last time it does it during this video, so... So as you can see on the map, there's a little bit of a problem with a destroyer getting awfully close. He's chasing a Bayern down, and I really hoped that the Bayern was going to do a little bit of a damage control on the destroyer and keep him engaged. I actually end up realizing that my ship is never going to complete a 180 without horribly exposing itself. I just throw my aircraft carrier into full aft, all engines aft full, and I'm just watching to see if the destroyer is going to come after me or continue after the Bayern here. I've got my planes headed in as quickly as possible here to get back and land. My ship is getting up to speed. Thankfully, the Ranger has got a halfway reasonable reverse speed. And you can see now that the Bayern just bailed off and totally abandoned me, and the battleship is running for his own life, which is completely acceptable, except he could have turned as soon as the destroyer turned south and at least tried to pepper him with some shots. He did have torpedoes after him, and that was a very good job by the destroyer, by the Mitsuki here, to keep that Bayern chased away and not be able to turn back. But he didn't turn back around at all. So I thought for sure at this point that all my nice early strike on the enemy carrier and having all the rest of the battle to go and work my magic against the enemy ships at will was going to be all for nothing, because I'm going to get taken out right afterwards. And I do appreciate the friendly destroyer trying to come and save me, even though I thought it was going to be too late and I was surely going to get torpedoed. Here come the torpedoes. He didn't fire a spread at all, which he really should have done, although he does get some pretty decent damage on me here. He does take about a third of my damage. But, miraculously somehow, my secondary gunners actually take him out. I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure I was done. So we've got a Tirpitz up here with quite a lot of his health left, and he is now moving in quite close. I'm at least shielded behind the island now, so I'm not under any direct threat from him. And I do have some other ships in between me to help.
Autopilot mode enabled.
But I'm going to send my entire air wing in after the Tirpitz now. Only one hit from the first squadron, but they got scattered a bit, so it wasn't too bad. Group 3 did a bit better. Only one fire, but 3 hits, which did a bit more damage to him. Not bad at all. Somehow my torpedo planes, for the first time in their entire careers, managed to avoid AAA fire here. And one way or another, that Tirpitz was done for there. Either my bombs were going to get him, or the torpedoes surely were. So there's a third kill for the battle, and things are shaping up pretty nicely here after I thought I was going to be toast. And I wonder, you can see me typing in chat, I really do wonder that. So the ship is turned back around and now accelerating back to forward speed. We're in pretty good control of the battle. And now I'm just going to go try and help mop up the remaining ships for the enemy team.
Our victory is in sight. Group 3, ready. Group 5, maintaining present course. Attention, reporting the target position. Group 4, ready for takeoff. Group 3, airborne.
So as the air wing takes off again, we're going to run them in on the closest battleship who's all alone by himself. So, when your target's destroyed as a carrier, you move on to the next target, and that's exactly what happens here. I've already sank a Tirpitz, might as well sink the Bismarck too. Pretty good strike there. 4 out of 6 bombs is pretty good work for a squadron. Gonna come in from behind him this time. Trying to hit him from all directions here with all my planes. Some more good work from the last squadron there. Pretty good bombing, fellas. Return to base for debriefing and cocktails. And really, what is the most appropriate way to deal with a Bismarck but torpedoes? If only I had swordfish to do it with. But that's it. 4th kill to finish things off. Not too bad. I did have some help from the team. Even if they didn't quite get to me in time to save me, they were on their way, and I do appreciate it. It certainly made that destroyer hurry up. So there's the score. Not too bad. Not my best damage battle ever, especially for having 4 kills. So I didn't do a lot of damage to most of the guys that I destroyed, except for, of course, their carrier. I did have a pretty decent score, though. You can see the Mitsuki, not a lot of damage. Tirpitz, not a lot of damage. Bismarck was a pretty good amount of damage, and their carrier, of course, was all of his HP, so not too bad. So for the second battle, this will be less kills, but quite a lot more damage dealt. So again, when I'm driving my Strike Wing carrier, which most of the time that's what I'm going to have. Spoiler alert if you're ever facing me in a carrier. Most of the time, the first thing I'm going to do is go try and hunt down the enemy carrier. Occasionally, my planes will get spotted heading along either side of the map by a destroyer or maybe a cruiser or even a battleship that just happens to go there first, and if it's a enemy Hiryu or something, or a ranger that's got air wing, or God help me, a Saipan, then I usually have to abandon that first plan and do something different. Sometimes it works. Most of the time I get in there okay. Occasionally it just doesn't work and I have to abandon the plan or replan in the air and divert to a different target, which also works, and I'm ready to adapt and plan on the fly and go take a different target if I have to. It's another Ranger on Ranger battle. And now I can see that he's a stock Ranger, which means he does have a fighter wing. He does also have torpedoes, but he's only got 1 fighter wing, or 1 fighter squadron, rather. So not as dangerous as it could be. Also, all of his planes are concentrating over at D, where all of their team is heading, which keeps them well away from my guys. So my guys should have a pretty good shot at getting in there undetected and finding his carrier. Which is, of course, exactly what I'm trying to do. So I'm quite happy. Now, just to be sure that my guys don't get detected, I've got them going to the absolute edge of the map. I bring my torpedo planes to cut the corner a little bit there to kind of catch up with the bombers, so that just in case his fighters do make it back, they can hopefully get to the target. Now look at that cluster of enemy ships there in D7. However, I do find an enemy carrier who is just sitting there not doing anything. So line all my guys up to come straight at him, straight down the longitudinal axis of his ship, right down his deck, and then have my torpedo planes come in broadside to him. He sees the danger coming, and he gets his ship in gear, but it's going to be just a bit too late. He does start a turn, which will throw off my bombing accuracy, unfortunately. But with the amount of planes I've got clustered here, it's not going to make that much difference. Only 4 hits is not the best thing in the world for 18 bombers, but what can you do? His fighters are going to... I thought they were going to go chase away my bombers, but unfortunately they did not. So as a result, he does do the smart thing and come after my torpedo planes. So I've got to hurry up the torpedo plane attack a bit. And I'm trying to take advantage of his fighters being engaged and making my torpedo planes spread more. But sadly, my torpedo planes can't even get in there and launch. However, somewhat hilariously, I get 1 torpedo launch out of 6. And it actually hits him. And obviously knocks out his engine because it hit him dead aft. I couldn't really believe that I actually got a single hit on him there. 1-for-1 torpedo launch is pretty crazy. So not quite the damage total I was looking for with getting all my planes in almost completely unmolested on him. Especially since I lost all 6 of my torpedo planes in the initial wave. But I do have spares. I also have some friendly ships out in front of me a little bit, so I can afford to push forward a bit with my Ranger and stay a little closer with the with my team here, which is also nice. So the air wing is ready for a second launch, and so far, the best target I'm seeing is a battleship all by himself. And then I see a New Mexico with an even better battleship target all by himself over in the middle of D. And, to boot, he's capping D, so if I can get to him, possibly do some damage to him and knock some of the capture points off, I can help the team even more. So I'm going to split my attacking air wing this time. I'm going to send all the bombers up north, and I'm sending the torpedo planes off to the east. And sadly at D, you can see in the chat, that is exactly what happened there. So that New York up in the north that I was sending all my bombers after is pretty well engaged by our fleet over there in the west. So I'm going to send 1 squadron of bombers after him to hopefully set a fire, and the other 2 are going to go carrier hunting, while my torpedo planes are going to go after this New Mexico, who has begun a turn, which will slow him down a bit, and already commits him to a rudder change. His rudder is shifted over to the right. I've got a pretty darn good target solution on him for torpedo run. Now my torpedo planes are going to run to his fighters again, which is unfortunate, but it really leaves my bombers free and clear to go do whatever they want to. 3 torpedo hits in a flood. Not terrible, not great. Pretty good, not great. Their carrier does actually have a bit of a defense from the HIE there, but it's not enough against bombers. And I was just a little bit off center axis on him with that bomb drop. Just a little bit enough to the north that some of my bombs missed fairly badly. And again, his fighters pounce on the guys who have already done the attack, which leaves my other 2 squadrons able to come in pretty much untouched here. Quite a bit better damage from those 2 squadrons. Quite a lot of fires on the carrier deck, too. And he does not have a lot of time to activate a damage control party and save himself. As you can see from the damage counting up.
Enemy aircraft carrier.
And that'll be that.
Autopilot mode enabled.
We're a bit behind in tickets for this battle, but not that much, and we're catching up pretty quickly now. And fantastically, K-Dog's little catapult fighter is able to take their distract their fighters off of my bombers and save me and save my bombers so they can get home. Otherwise, they would have been under attack all the way back home from the enemy fighters following the last order that the carrier captain gave them to attack. So he did me a huge favor there by getting his catapult fighter up and engaging the enemy planes. Thank you, K-Dog 2121, if you ever accidentally watch this video.
Waypoint reached. 5 approaching target. 5 returning.
Unfortunately, again, just a little bit off on the axis of the drop. It's really tricky to get maneuvering targets like that.
Ready for takeoff. 3 ready for takeoff.
Now the problem here that I run into is I have to choose who to torpedo because they're all pretty good torpedo targets. I'm gonna go on the HIE because he's kind of committed to his turn from those other torpedoes. Not a lot he can do. Except continue the turn and kind of avoid most of my torpedoes here. If I'd have waited and swung my planes down south, I probably would have done a little better job on him and perhaps even sunk him, but did cause flooding, so if I don't kill him, I'm at least going to force him to use his damage control party. Just a bit premature on the bomb drop there. More worried about that Furutaka getting within range to shoot at me and set my deck on fire. However, it appears that the HIE did not have a damage control party to use, judging by the flood damage I'm scoring up there in the upper right.
damage.
Did take a pretty good hit there from his guns. However, I'm not going to use my repair yet, just in case I get set on fire. My engine being incapacitated isn't too big of a deal right now. It kind of sucks, but I'm far enough away from any other danger, and I've got friendly ships coming. Plus, I've got my planes almost ready to launch again, that I'm going to risk it until I get set on fire. The Furutak has been eliminated. I use my repair. I send my planes in on the final ships to go. And the answer to your question, Matthew 419, is yes, we can bomb the Koenig sequentially. Because I'd love to start fires on him.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
Very nearly got an incidental hit on the Kirov there with the torpedoes. I didn't quite, but it was close. Now bringing my planes in for some additional bomb damage for the Koenig. Quite a bit of good damage there. And I scored a high caliber, which I don't know if I've ever had a high caliber before. If I have, I haven't noticed. Quite a bit of good damage scored with the bombers there. Solid damage on that Koenig, much better than the last battle where I got some pretty cheap kills with low HP guys. And in the battle I played before this, where I had to face a Saipan, that's what somebody typed for me, was a perfect example of how not to use a USN CV. So I was too bad those guys in the battle before this one couldn't see me in this battle. But it worked. Quite a turnaround and score too. We were down pretty far there at one point.
Victory is in sight.
And as you can see and probably guess, my planes are not quite going to arrive on target fast enough before we are going to win out by ticket count there, but a much better damage battle than the first one. Lower kills, but much more damage. Half as many kills, but half again as much damage, so. And the tickets tick off and we win. So you can see 136k damage, still not my all-time best, pretty close. A lot of bomb hits, pretty decent torpedo hits. A lot of fires set. Another second place. One more battle to go for this video. Much more respectable damage totals on the ships that I hit, too.
It's a go.
So for the third battle, and final battle for this video, it'll be me facing, I'm pretty sure, an enemy Hiryu, not an enemy Ranger this time. So slightly different work. Slightly different aircraft complement to face against. I can't wait to get a U.S. carrier that gets more than 4 different air groups. And can also have some fighters at the same time as more than one type of strike aircraft. Not the air wing with 2 bombers. I mean like torpedoes and bombers and more than one squadron of fighters. Would be really nice. So I'm doing my usual plan here, and the enemy fighter wing is basically going the same direction I am, so haul about, boys. 180 back down to the south and go up the other wall.
Waypoint reached.
So sometimes the life of a carrier captain is not terribly exciting, as you wait and wait for your aircraft to transit all the way back around from one side of the map all the way to the other. But this is the way it must be. So sort of in an effort to concentrate my defensive tail gunner firepower here with all my strike planes, I'm going to gather them into one big old blob. Send them in a kind of a concentrated 24 aircraft strike group here on one blob. Relatively concentrated, not as concentrated as they could be. The enemy bombers have found me, and I'm quite alone. The enemy torpedo planes have also found me. This is a bit grim looking. So I have to kind of let my planes go and concentrate on a little bit of fancy driving here. Both bombers have hit me.
The ship is on fire.
Now the important thing is how much damage can I sustain from the torpedo planes and be able to hit my damage control party right at the right time.
Torpedoes, direct front.
And absolutely, utterly amazingly, I dance between the raindrops there and don't take a single torpedo.
Problem solved, sir.
Now, I never saw this during the chat, but the enemy Hiryu captain complimented me and told me nice dodge, so... Good luck if you ever see this, man. Thanks, I appreciate it. I don't really claim a lot of skill there. I just hit start of the turn at the right time, and just the way the drop went. The ship had just enough energy to turn and get away. Just barely. I took a pretty significant amount of damage from the fires while I was waiting for the torpedo planes to finish their attack run, though. I do manage to get around behind our friendly fleet coverage, though, to defend my carrier from further air attacks, though, so that's good. Did kind of reach the safety of the fleet there. And my planes finally discover the enemy carrier. He moved to a pretty good spot. He knew what he was doing for sure. However, he stopped, which is a bit of a dangerous thing to do. He does see the danger coming, but his fighters are pretty far away. They're on their way, of course, and they are Zeros, so they're going to get there pretty quickly. But not quite quickly enough to stop my first strikes. Now, unfortunately, my slow torpedo planes are just taking a little bit too long to get here. The enemy fighters are on their way, and they're going to get here before I can get my torpedo planes in the position I want them in for the strike. However, they do get a halfway decent drop in, and I actually thought they were going to do me a favor with his fighters and scatter my torpedoes, but they really didn't. I did get 2 pretty darn good hits in on them, and I'll take the 2 hits that I got, considering that I lost all the rest of my torpedo planes.
Destination reached.
It's a pretty good amount of damage. Now, as you watch the score, the damage count go up in the upper right. Now, mind you, a Hiryu has 45,600 HP. $45,600. So, yeah, 115 HP left, and the flooding and fires and everything have been stopped. That's how close I came to finishing him off. In my first strike, anyway. Big thanks to Old One _1 down there chasing that enemy destroyer away from me. Definitely a relief for a carrier captain to see that kind of help come along. Now, I do still want to get rid of the enemy carrier. Our team is pretty far behind in this battle, score-wise, but Hiryu has got so many airplanes, and with 2 strike groups of torpedoes and 2 strike groups of bombers, I really want to get rid of him so that our guys can get in there and have a little bit of free reign to not be attacked by bombers or torpedo planes while they're busy fighting off enemy ships. So, while it's slightly selfish of me because I'm not really helping the team out while I'm doing this exactly, I am going to go in and get after his carrier again. Old One took a pretty big hit there from those torpedoes while he was saving me from the destroyer, unfortunately. But he did survive it. Now, my poor number 5 squadron runs smack into all of his fighters. But somehow, accidentally, 5 squadron was way out in front of 4 squadron and 3 squadron. So 5 is just going to continue and drag the enemy fighters away while 3 and 4 divert off and try to go find the enemy carrier, which I thought... I don't know why I was thinking this, because he was obviously heading back east at full speed in between those 2 islands, so I'm like an idiot, I'm heading back to where he was instead of where he was heading. But thankfully you can use kind of an old trick here. Take advantage of following the enemy planes back to their carrier. So the 2 fighter groups have obviously run out of ammunition and are heading back to their carrier now under their own automatic return. So Squadron 5 is going to turn around and get a little bit of revenge and follow them back into home plate. Unfortunately for Squadron 4, their target returned fire pretty heavily and shot a lot of them down before they were able to do anything, and they ended up missing all their bomb hits. But I am able to get in on the enemy carrier here. I don't even have to really bother with a manual attack. And there we go. So now it's on to free reign against the enemy ships. Starting with this York right here.
Enemy cruiser foundered.
Some good torpedo hits on him, and that's that for him. We got a very low health Koenig here and a pretty high health New York coming down, so I've got to worry about that. Plus we've got somebody inside our capture zone. Most likely the enemy destroyer that's left, of course. And now there's a Bayern outside on the other side of the very low health Koenig. Bad news coming down behind me on the east side. Exceptionally good bomb run there. For once, my boys really delivered on target there. 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 6 bombs that did a lot of damage. And I'm going to send my 1 squadron, or my 1 fighter remaining from the 4th group right now up to our cap to try and spot whatever is threatening our cap there. At least give our guys some help in the spotting. And I'm going to send Group 5 in to help our guys with that full health battleship that's bearing directly down on them. So right now I'm just kind of setting up a search grid pattern for the 4th squadron there to try and find whatever it is in our cap. This Guinese now is already on fire, so I'm going to hit him as hard as I can. Try and start more fire damage on him. And everybody misses. The enemy destroyer was briefly highlighted there in the center, but I was busy concentrating on setting up more bomb runs on the battleship, so I didn't catch it at first. Although the team at least should be able to see him. Score's much more even than it was a little while ago. We're making progress.
Group 2, we're under attack. Battle ends in 5 minutes. Group 2, approaching target.
And it is torpedo in time. Unfortunately, the bombers missed again, but the torpedo planes more than did their share there. I was quite pleased with that drop in the results. I'm guessing that the Gneisenau captain was not. Lots of damage there with the bombers. Much better attack there, boys.
The ship is on fire.
Now, I didn't get the burnout kill on him, but it's alright, because we just needed the score more than anything right there. Plus, he was more or less the closest direct threat to me, so with him gone, I'm just as happy that anybody killed him as I would have been as if I killed him. That right there is completely my fault. I set the manual attack and then I looked away from it to go after another aircraft squadron's attack. Completely my fault of setting up a head-on manual attack and not paying attention to it.
Team depends upon you.
And I really did not have the didn't need to screw that up. I couldn't afford to screw up that attack that I just totally blew there with those guys head-on that Bayern. Especially when I become the last one left on the team.
Group 2, we're under attack. Group 2, engaging enemy.
Because really, no matter how much damage I can do here, it's probably not going to be enough to save us.
We've destroyed an enemy battleship.
But you can believe I'm going to pay much better attention to my manual attacks now. As hard as I am sailing away from the other team now. Minute and a half to go in the battle, quite a bit behind on tickets. I've got to do something drastic here to swing this battle around into a victory for us. And I just don't know if I have the time or the aircraft left to do it. Squadron 5 is completely gone. Squadron 4 is down to, got its last 6 planes with 2 spares to go. Or no, with no spares to go. And Squadron 3 is down to 50% strength with only 3 planes left. I have no spare bombers. I have a full health torpedo squadron with 1 spare torpedo plane left down below decks in the hangar, and that is it. That is what I've got to effect a miracle with. There's no way I'm going to make it into their cap. And I'm not really going to do much to this full health, basically full health ship here. I'm just trying to do as much damage as I possibly can, honestly, at this point. 10 seconds to go. Quite a bit of a ticket deficit there. Not going to pull it off, unfortunately, but did pull off another pretty decent damage score. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to help the team win. But with practice, you can get pretty darn good at manual attacks. I'm not perfect by any means, but I think I'm getting pretty good at it. You can see this was during the ARP Nachi challenge, which I finished off pretty quickly. In fact, I did it all in one day. I'm working on the second one right now. Did end up with a first place with 3 ships sunk there. Pretty decent damage on the ones that I was able to kill. Not full on all of them, but pretty good score, I thought. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I look forward to bringing you some more World of Warships. I should have the ARP Nachi and Haguro videos coming out pretty soon, within the next week, I think. And don't forget to check out the social media links in the description below. Thanks for checking out this video, especially if you watch it all the way to the end, and I'll see you guys next time.